Joining us now is the host of the Locked On Lions podcast, which you can find on a number of different podcast outlets, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, and more. Matt Dery joins us now on the Megacast. Matt, thanks for being with us today.
What's going on, Tyler? Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you as well. So we're getting ready for the Lions season that kicks off this week Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles, a tough week one matchup against a team that has also made some very vast improvements to their roster over the offseason, and a team that performed relatively well a year ago. This season, a lot of promise for the Lions. A lot of people looking at the team as one of those teams that can be a surprise this year. Maybe not make the playoffs, but have a really good season ahead. For you, what are you looking at in terms of the outcome of this Lions season? Where do you think they end up when we get past week 17?
It's obvious. There's obvious improvements here. The roster, Tyler, is a lot better. We've been watching Hard Knocks every Tuesday night. The show's now over, but you see the culture that's been built. You see the positivity in the building. Heck, even the guys that get released and let go are walking out of the door telling Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell how great they are. It's a love fest. We're America's team now, Tyler. But the bottom line is there's still not enough talent here to win and win big. And that's okay. It's year 2 of a rebuild. Last year they won 3 games. You asked me my expectations. I'm thinking 6 or 7. Obviously in Vegas, they say 6.5 is sort of the over-under for those bettors out there. I see a 6 or 7 win team. I think the roster's improved. I like the offense a lot. I think Ben Johnson is the offensive coordinator with Dan Campbell and Jared Goff will be a nice combination. And I like the fact that the schedule's softer. Let's be honest. Last year's schedule was brutal, having to play the AFC North and the NFC West. So I think they get a little bit of reprieve there. And I don't see it as a playoff team yet. Still think there's some holes, but I think there's some positive momentum.
Yeah, I think if you can get out of the season with 6 wins, 6 to 8 wins is kind of where I have them on my low end, high end also. And if you get out of the season with that kind of a performance, you see some improvements from some of the younger guys coming up on this team. And if they stay healthy, is also going to be a big factor. I think that'll be a vast improvement for the Detroit Lions in the 2022 season. Another story with the Lions that is going to be getting a lot of focus this year is the future at the quarterback position. Jared Goff coming into a really make it or break it year, as many see it, and potentially could be let go this offseason if the Lions decide to move forward in a different direction. Some think that regardless of the way that Jared Goff plays in 2022, they should move on and go for whatever the biggest bang for their buck going forward. But that might be Jared Goff. Where do you stand on the Goff issue?
Well, obviously, the beginning of the season last year was a disaster. He did not look good. And it looked like the Jared Goff that Sean McVay and the Rams just discarded. Then the coaching changed with Anthony Lynn out. Ben Johnson was helping out, but really Dan Campbell was kind of the offensive coordinator, really. I mean, Lynn stayed on, but he didn't have any impact anymore. And he got better. And this narrative, Tyler, that they're going to move on from Goff after this year, I don't buy it. I think they feel that Jared Goff is going to be here and be here a while. Could they draft a quarterback next year in the first round? They've got 2 picks. Absolutely. But is an Anthony Richardson or a Will Levis going to come in here and take the job next year on a team that's trending upward? You still need to have a veteran QB and somebody that's viable. Putting a rookie in there that's never played at the NFL level, I think would be a mistake. So I don't agree that they're ready to move on from him. If he's god awful and terrible, yeah, they may have to pivot and go after and do kind of what Pittsburgh's doing with Trubisky and Pickett. That's possible, but I don't think he'll be awful. I think he'll be better than he was. The question is, in some of those tight games, late fourth quarter, can he deliver? And we're going to find out. He did obviously last year in the Arizona game, or the Minnesota game, I should say. But let's see. Let's see what they got. The wide receiver room is so much better. Run game's good. The O-line's good. So there's no excuses now. He should perform.
Yeah, I think that they're at a position where you have to make that decision. Where are you in the rebuild? Are you willing to take a step back and make a few steps forward down the road? Or is this the time where you're really trying to lean into ending this rebuild and finalizing that identity of Detroit Lions football under the leadership of Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell? I see them at the point where you want to make big improvements this year, and next year's that year, you're kind of going for it. Going back to a rookie quarterback doesn't accomplish that. If Jared Goff is even remotely like he was in the second half of last season, if not better than he was in the second half of last season, that's a much viable future asset than going after a quarterback in the first round and making them your immediate quarterback of the future. You can still get that quarterback. You can still trade up. You got 2 first-round picks. There's no reason to be rushing this in a way that could really derail that rebuild. In terms of the preseason, Matt, we saw some really interesting stories pop up, in particular, the performance of some of the rookies on the defensive side of the football. What we saw from Aiden Hutchinson, excellent in the preseason. It looks like that number 2 pick is going to be what we may see in the future and look back on as that was the right pick to make at number 2. Another surprise that came up this season, it's gotten a lot of press, particularly on Hard Knocks, is the performance of Malcolm Rodriguez. In terms of that linebacker room and really the coaching staff, how big of a surprise was Malcolm Rodriguez to the team coming into this preseason, given that he was a 6th-round pick?
I mean, I think that they thought he was a good football player, and that's why they drafted him. But yes, to be the best linebacker on the field during the preseason and even in training camp at times is a monster surprise. I mean, a lot of teams, Tyler, passed him up to the point where he went in the 6th round. You're asking a lot of an undersized kid here that was drafted in the 6th round to have to really come in and play a big role, but they're asking him. And when you look in that room and you see the likes of Jared Davis and Sean Dion Hamilton and some of those guys that got cut, obviously Davis brought back for the practice squad, but it's a weak point of the team right now. I mean, is Derek Barnes going to take a leap from last year? Hopefully, but again, he was a 5th-round pick. I think Brad Holmes believes you don't draft linebackers very high. You try to steal them in the mid to late rounds and hope they develop, and that's happened for some other teams, including when Holmes was in Los Angeles. So I think it's a surprise to a lot of people that don't recognize the name. I don't think it's a surprise to the organization. And also, it doesn't help that the room was sort of weak to begin with. But he's going to be good. I think he's going to be very good against the run. I think he's going to plug some holes. My concern with Rodrigo is guarding tight ends, big ones down the field. Can he cover? There's a reason he slipped to the 6th round, and that is his pass coverage and his speed. So we're gonna have to wait and see. But great story for sure. And those 44 jerseys, at least watching Hard Knocks last night, Rod Wood, esteemed team president, was getting some camera time saying that it's the 2nd most popular selling jersey. So we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, got that good Hard Knocks bump. Did Malcolm Rodriguez
Oh,
coming
yeah.
into his rookie season out of Oklahoma State. And we're joined by Matt Dery. He is the host of the Locked On Lions podcast, joining us today on the Megacast. You can listen to Locked On Lions on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, on Odyssey, and other places as well. Just go ahead and search Locked On Lions, and you'll be able to hear him regularly throughout the regular season and maybe more for this Lions team potentially this year. They really overachieve, Matt. Another area that was a problem area for the Lions and probably still is quite the problem area for the Lions is that backup quarterback position. I personally think it's kind of blown out of proportion. You're thinking about a lot of what ifs by saying that backup quarterback position could make or break this team this year. The fact of the matter is it's still a rebuilding team. If Jared Goff goes down or if Jared Goff underperforms, yeah, that's going to have a huge impact on the Detroit Lions. That being said, the backup quarterbacks this preseason were absolutely terrible. And bringing in Nate Sudfeld, what do you think that brings that's different than a guy like a David Blau or Tim Boyle, given that they were objectively quite bad this preseason?
Yeah, they were bad. And I'm not one to bang the drum for Nate Sudfeld either. If Nate Sudfeld were any good, wouldn't he still be in Philly or Washington? I mean, yeah, we have to talk about it because I really believe that Brad Holmes has done a nice job here in 2 years as general manager, but the backup quarterback situation has never been addressed properly. And they swung and missed on just about everything that they've tried. This is similar to last year's kicking situation where in week 1, it's like they went through five kickers already. David Blau was not good enough. Tim Boyle was a Holmes pickup, not good enough. And now Sudfeld's in. Then they want to bring Blau back on the practice squad, but Blau said, "The heck with you guys, I'm out of here," and goes to Minnesota. And then they bring Boyle back. I mean, it's a bizarre situation. Bottom line, if something happens to Jared Goff from an injury standpoint, they're in big trouble. That's just it. But if Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, the Chiefs are in big trouble. If Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, the Packers are in big trouble. I'm not putting golf in that class, but you know what I'm talking about. I mean, there are maybe you can count on one hand some backup QBs that you'd be very comfortable with around the league, and that's about it. I mean, Jacoby Brissett is going to have to start for the Browns, and they're very concerned in Cleveland. So until Watson comes back, so I don't. I think I think it made for an interesting story on Hard Knocks. It's not, we watched the show last night. Tim Boyle took it well. Now he's back in the practice squad. Nobody wanted him on their practice squad. He lasted a few days on waivers and came back. But yeah, Goff's got to stay healthy, or if any of these other guys have to play, it's not going to be a good scene.
Yeah, and the positive in that is that the offensive line is one of this team's strong suits, if not their strongest position on the field this season. So that should play a big role in keeping their quarterback healthy. That protection is definitely going to be there. Matt, other big stories throughout the sports world in Michigan at this time. In Ann Arbor, another quarterback scenario there, much different than what we have in Allen Park with the Lions, the University of Michigan, and a bit of a quarterback controversy, even though they won't call it that. Jim Harbaugh won't call that a quarterback controversy. Cade McNamara getting the start against Colorado State. JJ McCarthy scheduled to start against Hawaii this weekend. Where do you stand on that issue, where they're at with their quarterback, their decision making on whether or not to stick with the guy that won them a Big Ten championship a year ago, or go with the guy of the future, that five-star quarterback, the mobile quarterback, that's still a little bit green in JJ McCarthy?
I look at it as Cade McNamara is done. This is JJ McCarthy's show. This has been set up for JJ. JJ's the hotness, and the cult in Ann Arbor loves him. And he's not going anywhere. He's going to light up Hawaii this weekend. But Hawaii couldn't beat West Bloomfield. Um, Hazel Park, Oak Park, any of them. This is going to be a bloodbath on Saturday in Ann Arbor, and JJ is going to he's going to be homecoming king. I mean, he's going to walk out of there. Cade McNamara may come in, but it doesn't matter. I look at it as this was set up this way, and it's very difficult to tell the guy that finally won you a Big Ten title last year to go kick rocks, but that's what it looks like. I mean, Cade McNamara did everything they asked him to do last year. Is he a superstar? No, but this has Brady Henson written all over it. And so to me, I think JJ's going to have a big game against a bad team Saturday, and then for week 3, it's his job. And let's see what he does with it. But I feel badly for Cade McNamara because I think this is a bit of a circus, to be honest. He didn't lose his job, and then people are going, well, he really struggled against Colorado State. It's the first game. He went 9 for 18. He wasn't great, but like we're judging the quarterback battle based off the first game. And then JJ comes in garbage time, and of course he's going to light it up against Colorado State's third string defense. So I look at it as this is going to be his show from here on out, and it'll all be coronated on Saturday against Hawaii High School.
Yeah, I laughed hysterically when I saw the news come through a couple weeks back where Jim Harbaugh announced we're going to make the decision after week 2. We're going to have Cade start week 1 against Colorado State and JJ start week 2 against Hawaii. It's pretty obvious at that point. You're setting JJ McCarthy up for success. You want him to be the quarterback of your future. And this is all fabricated so you don't lose another quality quarterback that could be a serviceable backup if JJ McCarthy's youth comes into play and he underperforms during the season in critical points, or God forbid, there's an injury on your team. It was obvious. It's JJ's team, just as you said, and the performance this weekend against Hawaii, they might as well just not show up instead.
Well, let me say this, Tyler. Michigan's got a good team. All right. You may think I'm blasting Michigan, and I am to an extent because I think they've handled this very poorly. This situation, I feel sorry for Cade, but Michigan's got a really good team.
Yeah.
And so they're going to cruise through these first few games, not only because it's Cupcake City, but they're also really good. And that receiving core might be better than it was a year ago. But I just think for me, Cade McNamara did everything you asked him to do last year. He made big throws in big games, whether it was Ohio State, whether it was Penn State on the road, leading him down the field, finding Eric All on that crossing route. And I would stick with the guy that brought you to the dance last year and was named captain by his teammates. But I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, we'll really see that first kind of test will be against Maryland as they enter Big Ten play. But I agree, Michigan is going to be excellent this year. It's going to be a really tough get to beat Michigan in the Big Ten for teams like Ohio State, who will probably be the best set up to eventually potentially beat the University of Michigan, and of course for my Michigan State Spartans, especially at that at week one, looks like it's going to be an uphill battle against the University of Michigan. Matt, appreciate you joining us today, and good luck on the season with Locked On Lions.
Tyler, thank you. Great to see you.